He declares his goal to take on the best of the best at the most prestigious motorcycle race of the era, the world-famous Isle of Man TT.
If you've never been to the Isle of Man, it's hard to explain, but it's a unique place. You go there and, you know, it's probably one of the only races like that still exists.
It is a grueling test of both man and machine, taking place on the narrow public roads that twist up and down a tiny island in the outer sea. Both then and now, it is considered the most difficult and dangerous race in the world.
I can understand, you know, the feeling when they first went there to say, if we want a slice of this, this is, you know, this is what I call racing.
Seiichiro Honda didn't just want a slice of racing. He wanted the whole pie. So in 1959, he borrows money he doesn't have to enter 4 bikes at the Isle of Man. Trying to avoid unnecessary attention, Honda's factory race team shows up calling itself the Honda Speed Club. Hardly anyone pays attention to the little upstart company from Japan. But that doesn't faze Seiichiro Honda.
Our target was to catch up with European motorcycle companies. And we thought the shortcut for us was to participate in world-class racing.
It's a shortcut that quickly pays off. Even though none of the Hondas win, all 4 bikes finish the race. In an era where mechanical breakdowns were common, the fact that all 4 Hondas make it across the finish line is remarkable. It is the beginning of Honda's reputation for building reliable machines. Seiichiro Honda leaves the Isle of Man determined to build a more powerful motorcycle. And a new design, called the RC160 series, is born. Motorcycles that would redefine how to get more power from an engine.
At that time, Honda believed that the best way to maximize an engine's power was to raise the RPMs as much as possible.
The idea to increase the RPMs, the speed that pistons spin inside the engine, is part of Honda's mechanical genius. The result is what they call Honda music. The sound of 4 small cylinders firing at incredibly high speeds. This RC160 is part of Honda's museum collection, and the unique sound of its engine hasn't been heard in years. Today, the engine of this classic race bike can only be run for a few minutes. The men who fire up the motorcycle touch it lovingly and turn it off before the engine gets too hot. In 1961, the only heat being felt was by the competition, as Honda wins the Isle of Man.
It's 37 miles around the course. It's incredibly dangerous. It's incredibly fast. But it's like you go to the Isle of Man and you think, wow, those guys are men, you know.
Men who risk their lives and men who risk their fortunes. Running at the Isle of Man is expensive, and because Honda borrowed so much money to go racing, the Isle of Man almost puts the company out of business. But it also reveals a lot about Seiichiro Honda's determination to win.
They were spending a lot of money. He hadn't even been in business 10 years yet, right? and money was starting to deplete, and he was getting unhappy with the way they were built. I mean, there's stories of him throwing cylinders. Mr. Aguma, who's my team manager, had a scar on his head. I mean, he was also a perfectionist. Whatever he told you was exactly how he felt.
Every one of Honda's employees knew how he felt, and they still take great pride in Saiichiro Honda's remarkable achievement.
This model is the very first Honda motorcycle that was successful in world-class racing.
Winning the Isle of Man was a remarkable achievement, but it would take more than racing victories to become the largest motorcycle company in the world. To achieve that part of his dream, Saiichiro Honda turned his focus to the American motorcycle market.
The major, most important motorcycle market was the American market.
To understand the American market firsthand, Saiichiro Honda comes to the United States, and he is shocked by what he discovers.
He was really surprised. In the 1950s in America, many people believed that there were only two kinds of people that rode motorcycles: outlaws and motorcycle cops.
Saiichiro Honda may have been surprised by the negative attitude towards motorcycles in the United States, but that didn't stop him from taking on the U.S. market.
The market in the U.S. at that time was stagnant and somewhat exclusionary. It was hard to become a motorcyclist physically, financially, and socially. And Mr. Honda decided that that shouldn't be.
The American Honda Motor Company is created and opens its first office in Los Angeles on June 4th, 1959. Mr. Honda's plan was to change attitudes about motorcycles in the U.S. Ironically, his plan did not include the little Super Cub, the most successful two-wheel machine Honda has ever made. In 1959, the same year Honda enters the U.S. market, it sells 200,000 Super Cubs in other countries around the world.
In the case of Honda in the 50s, they didn't start in the U.S. by marketing the Cub. They were marketing other products. They had a variety of machines. Most of them were based on traditional designs that were adapted to the U.S. market.
But there were a handful of little Super Cubs in the U.S., used by the 8 employees of the American Honda Motor Company as reliable, fuel-efficient ways to get around town.
The Cub was initially being used by staff, but the reaction the staff got when people saw them riding it and the features and the advantages and the benefits of that design soon became readily apparent that the company said, you know, we ought to bring this in too.
But even with the Super Cub, Honda motorcycle sales in the U.S. didn't really take off until a unique advertising campaign was designed to change the public's attitude about motorcycles. The commercials first run in 1963, and Honda sells 100,000 motorcycles that year. By 1964, Honda captures nearly 50% of the entire U.S. motorcycle market. Public attitudes towards motorcycles are changing. In the 60s, Honda is relentless in its push to change the way Americans think about motorcycles. Honda gambles its entire annual advertising budget on sponsoring the Academy Awards. Then, it buys TV commercial time in the Super Bowl. The impact is virtually immediate.
There were people lined up at dealerships, doorways, before stores open the next day, the next Monday. It was pretty impressive.